The first day is an introduction to social justice, and we talk about human rights, and on the next day we talk about the status quo, followed by stories of oppression, not just for human beings, but also the planet, the environment, and what borders can do to our surroundings. And finally, we end with a high note of stories of resistance, of vindication.
You're listening to Speaking of Language, a podcast recorded at the Language Resource Center at Cornell University. Each week, we explore a topic related to language pedagogy and second language acquisition. This week, on Speaking of Language,
Emilia, Illana, Mahiques, and Macarena, Tejada, López discuss how they synthesized language, migration, and human rights in their teaching, and the culminating project that highlighted the knowledge and creativity of their students.
Hello, Speaking of Language listeners. Welcome back to a new season of our podcast. I'm Angelica Kramer, the director of the Language Resource Center at Cornell University.
And I'm Sam Lupowitz, the LRC's media manager. We hope 2022 is off to a healthy and happy start for you all. Today, we kick off our 9th season with two of our colleagues, Dr. Emilia Illana Mahiques and Dr. Macarena Tejada López. They developed a new module for an intermediate Spanish course focusing on human rights and a broad conception of borders.
Welcome to Speaking of Language, Emilia and Macarena.
Thank you very much.
We are so excited to be speaking to both of you about your Spanish 1230 course and the amazing art exhibition your students put together last semester. Before we dive in, can you please share a little bit more about your background and your path with languages? Emilia, why don't you get started?
All right. Well, my name is Emilia, and I joined the Romance Studies department at Cornell University in the fall 2019. So that makes 3 years of teaching at Cornell. And I completed my PhD in second language acquisition at the University of Iowa and my master's degree in foreign language literature and pedagogy in the University of Delaware. And I specialize in second language teaching, curriculum design, and writing.
Wonderful. Macarena, what about you?
I have been involved in language teaching ever since I finished my degree in English philology in Spain, where I taught English as a second language. And then when I came to the US to study a second master's at the University of Oregon, where I have been teaching Spanish for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
So I've been doing that there, and then I came to Cornell to continue teaching Spanish because I just love teaching, and I love teaching languages. So I am very happy to be here at the moment.
Great, and we are very delighted to have you here as part of the Cornell community.
So to get things started then, let's talk about what is typically taught in Spanish 1230.
That's a question for you, Emmy. You're the coordinator.
So, yeah, well, in 1230, it's a low intermediate course. So we are looking to bring students a level of comprehension a little higher, advance their oral skills, written abilities in a cultural context. We do that through review of the grammatical structures because we consolidate those. And then we also engage students in analysis of text, shorts, movies, and we also develop some writing and reading activities.
So what was your inspiration for focusing on human rights, migration, and social justice?
Yeah, my very first inspiration was the LRC talk, Social Justice and the University Language Learner was called. And that was on March 17th last year, so 2021. And it was by Cassandra Glynn, Pam Wesley, and Beth Wassel. So they came to the talk, and I knew Pam Wesley from the University of Iowa, so I had the chance to talk to her a little more, and I wanted to change the migration project that we have in 1230. The topics that we did in 1230 regarding to migration, I wanted to do something with them. And then this talk was of an inspiration for taking the perspective of social justice. So
Nice, that's great. Your work for this particular module that you worked on was also partially supported through a faculty micro grant from the Center for Teaching Innovation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
they support curriculum improvements. And I think, yeah, I was with Alice working in an LRC grant already. So then I was working with the city, with the city. I was working with something different to develop the migration part. They just support instructors to develop curriculum contents. So I applied to the CDI, and that's how I started changing the curriculum for the migration.
Nice.
Yeah. And then later is when everything kind of got mixed a little bit, because we continued to improve those projects, right? Macarena helped me with that. And all the content that I created with the CDI then became improved again with the LRC grant.
Yeah. It was great, though, that Emilia had the opportunity to test the new module over the summer, because when we went back to the modules for the fall semester, we already had input from her on the strengths and the weaknesses of the modules and how to continue developing them. And then we came up with how, the big finale, the exhibition.
Yeah, nice.
And also for teaching it to the TAs, that was it was very interesting to have because everything, so if I implement a change in the curriculum, everything is in my head, but you need a second person that tells you, hey, I mean, this is really only in your head. Nobody's gonna get this. So Macarena, you remember that Macarena was like, I mean, like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, what do you mean? It makes a lot of sense. So then she was helping a lot, reviewing all the materials and making them comprehensible for all the TAs and all the instructors. I still remember that day. It was like, this makes no sense.
We spent like 3 hours in a row working on it, coming up with ideas and how to like divide it. Yeah, it was good.
That's why we love collaboration. Multiple heads are always better than one.
Yes. Yes.
Well, so now, can you tell us a little bit about what your module looks like, big picture?
Well, it is one divided into 4 different days, we would say. Every day we tackle a different aspect of migration and social justice. And so the first day is an introduction to social justice, where students get to talk about their understanding of it, and we talk about human rights and all the rights listed, the order. Then on the next day we talk about the status quo, followed by stories of oppression, not just for oppression for human beings, but also the planet, the environment, and what borders can do to our surroundings. And finally, we end with a high note of stories of resistance, of vindication, and that's how we have shaped the 4 days that compose the module.
One of the final products, or the final product for this particular module, was that students created art projects and that you had this wonderful exhibition. What kind of projects did the students create? Can you talk a little bit about some of the artifacts that came out of that were part of the exhibition?
Well, we were very flexible with what students could create. We offered the opportunity to create paintings, create anything that was digital, movies,
3D.
3D, podcast, anything. They had no barriers. It could be a poem. So they have no barriers for creating as for what type of project they could create.
Yeah. And I think that we had a sample of everything that we thought possible, because we did have poems and a podcast and videos and posters and protest signs and Yeah.
We have websites too. It was
Yes.
yeah.
So
Yeah, it was.
They,
I was blown away by what the students created. I mean, there are some true artists that participated in this, and I was really intrigued just by the broad variety of different things. I mean, and the materials that the students used too, right? I mean, it was great to see that all come to fruition and what students, how they expressed their thoughts and ideas on this topic. It was really nice.
yeah, I got the question of whether we were whether my colleague Macarena was an artist or whether we
Aha!
were.
Take that, yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know. She does some art here and there. Or whether we were collaborating with the art department. And they said, no, this is really all the students
Yeah.
who were able to create all this.
yes, and I have to add that also thanks to the funds from the LRC grant, we were able to provide students with materials and we were able to pay for the printing services so that they really only had to worry about what they wanted to create without thinking, the money that they had to
Yeah.
spend to create it. So that was a big help.
Yeah.
Nice.
So tell me some more then. What was the students' reaction to the modules and to the project?
Well, I think that migration and social justice can always be controversial topics that raise all types of feelings and emotions and responses in the classroom. What Emmy had tested the modules over the summer, so I think that she could basically have an idea of what could be expected. But for the rest of us, we were just hoping that the students would not feel intimidated by the topics and the questions, and to just simply, create conversations in the classroom. In my experience, my students, I was delighted with how involved they became with all the materials and how open they were, sharing their experiences and their stories and their concerns. So I have a very positive experience with it. I think that the response from the students was really good in the classroom, and then we all saw the rest in the exhibition. But Emmy?
Yeah, the same supporting what you said. I think the students were able to relate. I think one of the goals of this of changing the migration content that we had in the curriculum already was to make it more relatable. So not only focusing on the Mexico border, but also focusing on what is migrating, what is moving. Um, what does it mean to feel constrained? Are you constrained? Are we constrained? So like it was more, we really approached the topic from many perspectives, and students felt very relatable. And of course, the times we're living now, right now, we all are seeing borders everywhere all the time and talking about them, right? So it was, I think it was so relatable to them that they could get engaged in the content. Yeah.
And I think how the students engaged with the topic and their expression in the artifacts that they created really speaks to your ability to create a positive and inclusive classroom atmosphere, right? Because as you said, this can be a really tricky topic, and the fact that students were so open, because I feel some of the artifacts were really deep and showed vulnerability of the students, and I think it's wonderful that they felt safe enough to have that expression not only for their peers but also for the entire campus community.
Yeah, I gotta say that I always put myself as an example. Like I give my experience as an immigrant here in this country, who has English as a second language with an accent, my own experiences, also just to open myself a bit to them so that they also feel welcome to open themselves a bit to the rest of the class and also to me. Because this is not an interrogation. It's not. I'm not throwing questions at them, and I want them to respond and practice Spanish. No, this is a conversation in which I also have to be honest with them.
That's wonderful. What feedback did you get about the exhibition from those who attended, or what did you observe about the people who were milling about the exhibition?
I think the exhibition was like the culminating thing of like to top it all up, and because they realized what other peers created, and they got surprised with the art of other peers. And then they start saying like, wow, other people went out of the way really, and other people got out of their comfort zone to do amazing things. And the other people will think the same about their own, right? But I think that's when everything became very real for everyone.
Yes. I think that the students realized the scope of the project and the art exhibition, and in the feedback that Emi created a worksheet for the students to walk around, analyze, take a look, and also the feedback that they left at the end. And they were not aware, I don't want to be redundant, but that all the students were putting so much effort and were so involved with it. So that they loved, and honestly, some of them also felt intimidated by the skills that other students had at creating posters and watercolors. I mean, it was great. And they were like, but we're not going to be graded on our creativity skills, right? It's like, I think that all of you have done an incredible job, and that should not worry you at all.
Yeah, it was very surprising for all of us, and for us instructors too, because we were putting together this exhibition, but we had no idea what kind of art they were going to bring. And we were thinking like, oh my, I hope they bring something that can be shown, because, Angelica's going to come here. She's going to see all these things. I hope they can see something nice. And in the end, it turned out like they really put effort in them. And on what Macarena was saying, and it is true. We created some activities, right, that students could use for the last day. So they will be seeing the projects, and they will also be guided as for what is the best piece of art that you like the most, or what is a topic that you like, and it was just a bunch of questions and activities. And at the end, they had to reflect about the exhibition itself. And one of the top comments, which I found interesting, was, do not give us more activities. We just want to see the art. They wanted to see the art and start reflecting. They didn't want to be like answering questions. So we probably cut that.
We have to say that sorry, Emmy.
No, it was interesting. It was a funny comment, because that was to guide them, right? And they were still like, no, we don't want to do more, classroom stuff. We just want to see the art and reflect on it. So.
I just wanted to give credit to the location, because that was a nightmare to find a good room on campus to showcase all the art. And I think that we found the perfect spot to show all the posters and all the art, because it was impressive. I think that everything that day worked so well that, and I remember that with so much happiness and joy that, can't express it.
Yeah. There was a lot of questioning, right, about how this final day was gonna end up, and it was surprising. We definitely prepared for it, but you always have the question, right? Like, how are things gonna turn out? Is it gonna rain? How are we gonna bring all the projects if it's raining? All these possibilities that you always have to think.
Yes.
And but it did turn out well.
Yeah.
Will this exhibit live beyond just that one day when everything was displayed? What are you doing with all those projects? Did the students all take them back home?
Students were encouraged to take them with them. And many students came at the end of the exhibition and took their projects with them. I have kept some in my office. They're decorating my office with the permission of my student. Well, I actually told one of my students, I'm keeping it. Like, I'm keeping this one, and she's like, I'm totally fine with that. And I'm like, good, because this
Not a question.
this is gonna hang in my office space. So some others, some other students were not interested in collecting them. I still have a bunch of posters in my office.
Yeah, I kept some too that are also decorating my office. So
That's nice.
Yes.
And forgive me if I missed it the first time. Did you mention you were talking about the space where you displayed everything? Where was that on campus?
Oh my, what's the name of
Wheeler
that place?
Straight Hall.
Wheeler Straight Hall.
Gotcha.
Yes.
600 something, I think it was. Was it the 6th floor? It was a lot of stairs.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
The elevator only got to the 4th or something like that, and then you have to walk the rest. And with all the projects and the screens and the projectors. So
Yeah, not
it was
useful.
Where can our listeners find out more about this project?
Well, it's got some media coverage that we're delighted with. One being this podcast, that so they can learn more about the project by listening to the podcast. CTI also released a chronicle about it, and I have a colleague in California, Riverside. Yes, Riverside. Who's interested in including this exhibition in the next issue of their newsletter that will be released in June, and hopefully we will repeat it again, Emmy.
So yeah, that would be great.
Yes, we're doing it for sure at a small scale where the art component is continuing, and students will. The plan so far is that students will do that, and will bring their art to the classroom. That's like the most basic thing that we're keeping. Like, at least share it with the classroom, and then I'll have to talk to Daryl maybe and see. See if he wants to repeat it, and Macarena is always there to help.
Nice.
Yeah, and also the department we had the support of the department as well with the media. They also posted on their Facebook page and on the department
Instagram.
page.
Yep.
And then also maybe Macarena and I go for a conference somewhere and talk about it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
more.
that would be great. Certainly.
Yes, we would love to put something together.
Yeah.
Because why not use this great outcome as a research or to write a paper? Yeah.
Well, and I think anytime you can allow your students to be creative and to do something that's not writing a paper and not interviewing someone, right? It always surprises me how creative students get when you allow them to let those creative juices flow. So I think this was a really wonderful way to re-engage students, especially during the times that we are living through right now.
Yes.
And the final essay was still there. The final course essay was still there. But instead of talking about, a topic that they have to just talk about the topic or something, they actually had to talk about their process for creating the art and what are you trying to show. And so it was a different kind of writing as well.
Yeah, nice. What are your next plans for innovating your curriculum, or are you going to take a little bit of a break now?
This semester, I'm going to take a break.
Good for you.
Because last semester was my first here in Cornell.
Yep.
And even though absolutely rewarding. It was so much work, right? I mean, it was so much work.
Yes.
And even though I'm not teaching 12:30 this term, I still want to volunteer to help her. But I think that it's always easier to innovate in the curriculum when you're in the position of a coordinator rather than just a lecturer. That I do have ideas for future courses that I may coordinate, but for now, I think that I'm just gonna be a helping hand.
And I'll probably be looking for hands. So.
There you go. The LRC has a lot of those as well.
Yeah, so normally it's what you were mentioning before, collaboration. I know that I'm someone that needs collaboration for almost anything I do, but it's just a different way of working. It comes out totally different. So
Yes.
yeah, we'll see what. Yeah, I'm
You're
sure.
full of ideas, I mean. You are.
The problem is when they are too big, and it's like, oof, this is
Yeah.
too big. Yeah, and then it's a lot of work. So, but you just have to find the right people who want to,
true.
like Macarena, who they want to support and continue with the project. So.
Yes.
All right. Well, before we sign off, we like to ask both of you to share a word in a language you speak, love, or are learning or want to learn that makes you giggle. We all need more laughter in our lives. So, Emilia, maybe you can start us out.
Yeah, I have thought of one, but now I changed it because I had shared it with Macarena and she didn't want to share it with me. And I said, hey, that's not fair. You're going to tell...
No, I shared it with you 30 minutes before the podcast.
No, I cannot believe that. I didn't check my phone. So we decided to surprise each other here. So my favorite, a word that I like that makes me laugh is the word, in English, the word bruschetta. Like when you go to a restaurant and ask for how do you call that, bruschetta, right?
It's a bruschetta. It's Italian.
Exactly. So I said, I want a bruschetta. We were in the restaurant, we were eating, and we said, I want a bruschetta. And then this random American person was sitting with us, right? He said, do you mean bruschetta? Oh my God, I'm the one who's teaching languages here. You mean bruschetta? I'm like, okay.
I've always felt like
Bruschetta.
that's one of those words where you really can't win because either you pronounce
Agreed.
it the Italian way and you get a funny look from the person who just wants to take your order, or you pronounce it the way all the Americans do and you're like, but I studied languages and I feel terrible about myself. So it's anyway. Macarena, how about you? What's your word?
My word is melocoton. Because that would be peach in Spanish, in Peninsular Spanish, because it got different names in Latin America. But I like the word because as you're pronouncing it, it's like you get a mouthful of the fruit. It's like melocoton. It's like it's round. I like the connection between the pronunciation and the actual fruit.
Which in Spanish, in Latin America, is durazno. So it totally loses the whole point of it. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like that both of you selected words in the food family. I appreciate that.
We approve of that here
Yes,
at
we
Speaking of
definitely
Language.
approve
Yes.
of that. Yeah.
We might go for some bruschetta and some melocoton together.
Yeah,
one
it
day.
does
There we go.
define me. My love for food.
Well, next time you do the art exhibition and we are allowed to have food again on campus, maybe we'll make sure to have both of these things for the students to taste.
Yes.
And only those two things. That's all we'll serve.
Setting precedents. Yes.
Oh, my. Well, thank you so much for speaking of language with us today, Emilia and Macarena.
Thank you. It was
Thank
my
you very
pleasure. I had a
much.
fun here.
Yeah,
So did we.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Next week, we'll speak with Michelle Crow, Director of Cornell's English Language Support Office. Until then,
Auf Wiederhören!
The Language Resource Center is located on the ground floor of Stimson Hall on Cornell's main campus in Ithaca, New York. Check us out on the web at lrc.cornell.edu.
or follow Cornell LRC on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Speaking of Language is produced by Angelica Kramer and Sam Lupowitz.
Recorded by Sam Lupowitz.
Original music by Sam Lupowitz, Dan Gable, and Joe Gibson.
Thanks also to the College of Arts and Sciences at Cornell University.
As a reminder, the ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the College of Arts and Sciences or any other official entity of Cornell University.
We thank our listeners, and do stay tuned for our next episode.